there! Before the video begins, make sure that you leave a like and subscribe, ring and ding that notification bell to never miss a video, and comment down below. Enjoy the video! Hey! Welcome to part 2 of my Redesigning Hazbin Hotel characters series. Today I will be doing another 3 of the main cast. Quick thing I want to say before I start talking about the actual art is that Hazbin Hotel is an adult animation, so I don't condone minors watching it. Obviously, I can't do anything about it if you do, but viewer discretion is advised for some of the topics that I will be discussing in this video. First up is Alistair. Alistair is probably my favourite of the redesigns I made, probably because he looks the most different to his canon design compared to the other 3 that I've done. For Alistair, I decided to give him more deer-like features, that of course being his nose, ears, and I think I made his antlers bigger. I also decided to give him shorter hair so that he looked more like his human design too. And if you haven't seen it, it may pop up on the screen. I did also change up his cane or microphone so that it looks more like one you'd have in the 1930s rather than the silly little one that he has. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but I made it look more like one, while also sort of giving it a pentagram to give off demon vibes, you know. Alistair is probably one of the most interesting characters in the show. He's very unique in a sense that there aren't really any other characters like him in a lot of media. A few things about him is that he is, first of all, known as the Overlord, the radio demon. So in Hazbin Hotel and the Helliver universe, Overlords are the most powerful sinners that tend to hold souls of regular sinners. There is this whole hierarchy in hell. I won't get into it too much, but sinners are pretty much people on Earth that died and went to hell, if you couldn't put that together. And Alistair owns a bunch of souls, or he did. And one of those souls are Husk, who I drew in part 1. From what I know, Alistair used to be a serial killer on Earth who died in the 1930s from a hunting incident. I think it was a bullet through his skull. Another thing is that he was also a mama's boy, which I find so silly because it makes so much sense. Like, he's always so much more gentle when it comes to the women in the show, like Mimsy and Charlie. Shown with those two especially, I think, in the show. And then he's obviously not so nice to characters like Lucifer and Vox and Husk. So it does, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense. Something I love about Alistair's design is, of course, his big old smile. Again, this is only from what I've seen around online. I think right now it's a headcanon, I'm not too sure. But he smiles because his mother always told him to. And, of course, a smile is a very powerful thing. As he explains to Charlie, it can hide one's true feelings and how one thinks. It can confuse one's enemies and inspire one's allies. I wrote that down. If you couldn't tell that I was reading it, I feel like that it was kind of obvious that I was. He definitely said it better than I did. 100%. I'm sorry, I butchered that line, but it's such a cool line. It is. For his colors, they're mostly the same. I made them a lot darker and a lot less saturated, as seen with his hair not being a brightish red-pink color. So instead I gave that color to his ears so they would stand out. Something I've also heard that is, I'm pretty sure is completely true, since his voice actor spoke about it, unless I'm forgetting what he said, was that Alistair is going to get a solo, and I am so there for it. Any part Alistair has had in any of the songs, they've been so good, and I eat it up every time. every time I chow down on it. I'm sorry. Anyway, his outfit, while it's very similar, I did decide to change its palette again. Of course, I gave him a different shirt because I'm not really a fan of the one he actually has for his like actual design. And I also decided to make it black so that there's not so much red in his outfit. I think the only sort of like black would be in his pants and bow tie. So I changed that, and I thought it looked cooler. Obviously, nothing against the actual designs. I love them, and this is always so difficult when I have to redesign characters, because I adore all of their designs. I decided to give his trousers those same sort of stripes as his coat, so that it would fit the 1930s type fashion too, because I did search up, obviously, 1930s men, no, 1930s outfit aesthetic, of course, as I always do. And usually when one wears a striped coat or jacket, there's a matching pair of trousers. So I did that for him. His bow tie is also a little different, if you can tell. I added an eyeball to it. Just so it's creepy. Nothing really behind it. It's just so it gives off Alistair's creepy kind of vibes, you know? Overall, I think that I'm in love with my design. For Alistair, I feel like it does give off that kind of eerie, tall, creepy vibe that he's meant to give off. I think at some other point I may do characters' demonic forms as a separate thing, because I think it'd be really fun, and especially doing Alistair's I think would be very fun, because his is his is very cool. I really like his demonic form. Same as Lucifer and Charlie's. I think those two also have really cool ones. One thing I think I would change would be the tail coat, or the tails on his coat, because the more I look at it now, the more stiff it is. So I definitely fix that up if I were to draw him again, which I probably will. But there you go. That's Alistair for you. The next character I decided to redesign was the one and only Serpentius. Serpentius was a little difficult to change anatomy-wise. I think the flaps that he has, I made a little longer. I'm not really sure what they're called, but they act as it acts as hair. So I thought making it longer would be a little silly. The thing I changed most was definitely his outfit. I wanted to go with something a little steampunkish, since he is an inventor that creates a whole load of steampunk looking machines and weapons, not to mention the airship that he has. I decided to change the shape of his goggles so that they would stand out a little more, and so that he'd look a little more unique or madder, you know, like a little crazy scientist guy, but not a scientist obviously, like an inventor. That's one way of putting it. Lineup wise, he hasn't really changed so much besides his outfit. Obviously you can see that there are some slight changes. He has a different coat with a different collar, a scarf around his neck, and a little shoulder pad, so it looks more like the outfit that I have in the references I chose. And well, of course I searched up steampunk aesthetic outfits. No surprise in that. Serpentius is a sinner in the show that became a resident of the hotel as of the second episode. He had died during the Victorian era, and of course was a great inventor in his lifetime. It also says on his wiki page that he was a supervillain, and to me that's so silly, because he is barely evil compared to the actual villains in the show. But hey, it's hell, you know, most characters down there are going to be evil. So in the pilot, which I think carries on to his debut in the show, is that he wants to conquer hell and become a great overlord with his army of little minions, which of course are the Egg Boys. The Egg Boys, I just recently found out, like a few weeks ago, were voiced by Blake Roman as well, who is Angel's voice actor. It's wild. I forget how voice actors can have so much range sometimes, and it's so silly. While colouring him, I wanted to make use of his purple mixed with warmer colours. The colour scheme for that, because he uses that quite a lot in his warship and his weapons and things, like purples and yellows. So I thought I'd incorporate that a little bit more into his design, since it's more like black and yellow, with obviously like the pink eyes and stuff. I think I made his hat a lot more saturated and a little lighter too. For his snake-like features, I decided to give him a creamish or yellow underbelly, so that it would also look more like the snake reference I picked out. I don't remember what species it was, but it was black and yellow, so that worked, even if I made him more of a grayish purple tone. So if you haven't watched the series, spoilers, I guess, for this bit, Penchus dies. Penchus dies in the final episode of the show. He ends up sacrificing himself in hopes of killing Adam, but of course he does not succeed. It doesn't turn out well for him, and he instead gets blasted by a ray of light. Thankfully though, he does live, in a sense. He gets into heaven, which makes him one of the first... No, it does make him the first sinner that undergoes redemption, unless there's apparently some other sinner that redeemed themselves. Maybe Lilith? I don't know, that bit still baffles me. This also means that I will be doing his angel design at some point in the future. But take that more as a maybe. I don't want to make any promises, but I do think it'll be fun. Because as I've said before, I've had a lot of fun drawing these characters. Something that I haven't enjoyed doing for a while. Something that I did forget to add, as you can see, are the eyes that he has on his body. But I do quickly add them in, which thankfully wasn't too difficult to do. Even though I did colour, it wasn't too difficult. I forget how many eyes are involved in his design, and I do wish that I incorporated those some more, but obviously I did forget that he had them all over him. With this coat too, I found that it was too bright, so you can see that I go in and use a saturation layer to desaturate those bright shades. I'm not really too happy with the color palette of his outfit. I feel like everything is too all over the place and they clash a little, which only makes me want to do another redesigning video of characters that I have redesigned, or at least post my redesigns at some point in the future. Speaking of that, let me plug my socials for just a second. If you guys want to see more of my Hazbin hotel art, I've been posting a ton of them. The links are in the description, so go check those out. While I'm plugging things, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'll be posting a lot more, mostly about Hazbin and probably a few other fandoms. So if you hit that subscribe button, or even that like button, that would be greatly appreciated. If I can get to at least 250 subscribers, I'll most likely do something special for you guys. Something fun, something silly. Besides that, I think he looks silly, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Obviously, there are definitely improvements that I could make, but the final outcome wasn't too bad, so I'm happy. And there you have it, Sir Penchus. The final character I'll be drawing in this episode of my redesigns is the adorable little Nifty. Before anyone says it, I know I haven't done Vaggie yet, But don't worry, she will be coming up very, very soon. Anyway, before I started Nifty, I thought that I would absolutely dread doing her. I mean, I had no ideas at all, even after looking at her wiki page. But when I actually got into it and looked for some references for maids in the 1950s and whatnot, it was actually not as bad as I thought. I stuck with a somewhat similar design, a lot more different than some other characters that I've done, but it doesn't stray off too much. For Nifty, I decided to give her more bug-like features, even though she isn't a bug herself, or at least I don't think it's canon. I wanted something to sort of add to her, and antenna and the little points that stick out of her arms and legs were like the only ideas I really had to make her stand out at the start. I'll be honest, I don't really know too much about Nifty. I don't think there's too much known about her in general since she's in season 1 and she's mostly been there for comic relief. But the things that we do know is that she is a maid and the cook of the hotel, summoned by Alist to work there in the pilot, just as Husk was. Something I'm curious about though is whether or not Nifty is owned by Alist. I don't think they've explicitly said anything, since I was loosely in the fandom when the pilot was around. I'm not too sure if it was stated at all or anything. I don't think she is, but some people do seem to believe she's an overlord, which personally, I don't think is the case either. I'm not really a big eye theory believer. Obviously, if you follow that theory, then good on you. I just don't think that Nifty is an overlord. Nifty, of course, is also a sinner. She had died at the age of 22 in the 1950s, and I think she was Japanese American. And that's all on her past in the wiki, so that's just about all I know. For her hair, I made it a little different. It's still a short cut, but I made it curl a little more so that it would look more like the 1950s style of women's hair. I did change up her antenna, which made her look more like a plant, so I did decide to change them up again. To her little dress, I got rid of the little scarf that she has and instead gave her a frilled collar. And I think originally that was meant to be a shadow, but I changed it to be a turtleneck kind of thing. And I also gave her a little scarf or ribbon. I did want to incorporate some more bows into her design, but wherever I ended up putting them, they didn't look good at all, so I just didn't. Besides that though, the dress is mostly the same. For colouring her, I've used the same sort of colour palette. I think it's the most similar one out of the characters I've done in this episode. I know that I made the dress less saturated, but I think that was about it. On her dress too, I added that little poodle at the bottom of the skirt. I don't think I did it justice at all, so that'll definitely get redone at some point. I'm not really sure what the significance of it is, but it's cute, so I kept it in. I had to redo her eye as well. The pupil was a little too small, which, while it does show her feralness, if that's even a word, I wanted her to look a little cuter. I almost forgot to mention the little scissors that I gave her. I wanted to add her needle into that pocket as well, but then I remembered that it's quite literally the size of her. So for some reason, I don't think it would fit. But I do wish that I put something else in there, so it didn't look so empty. Even though it does have scissors in it, I think adding a little more would have given her redesign a little more detail. To change up her colours a little, because I wasn't the fondest of them, I put an overlay layer right over the top of all of her to make it all look sharper and the colours look warmer, or at least make the warmer colours stand out a bit. But that's about it with Nifty. I really like her design. So there you have it, the end of the video. I hope you liked my redesigns of these 3 characters from Hazbin Hotel. Part 3 is already in the making, so be excited for that. Let me know if you want to see any characters as well, and what you thought about the designs down in the comments. I'd really appreciate that. Since the last video got so many views, like holy moly, I wasn't expecting that. Please do. And also remember to like the video. That would be appreciated very much. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.